Hey y'all, I'm Sarah Wall in the Fox 10 newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us today as we go in depth. Today, we're taking a closer look at what happened over the weekend with those snow flurries, and in some places that snow actually stuck. And even though the snow's gone, freezing temperatures are hanging around. So we're going to talk about some places you can go to warm up if you need a safe place, a warm place to go. We're also going to talk about some things to keep in mind as these freezing temperatures linger. And y'all, I've been talking with meteorologist Nicholas Urbosto this morning about a potentially very interesting forecast for this coming weekend. So lots to talk about, lots to delve into. Let's first get started with what we saw on Sunday. And you know, a year ago we were talking snow, right? At a much different level. We were talking snowmageddon. We had snow that was falling and accumulating and shutting things down and all of that. Well, this year, look at the snow we have here. This is in the Florida Panhandle. Parts of the Panhandle woke up to snow in their yards on Sunday, almost exactly a year after the famous snowmageddon we had. While the snow was nowhere near what we had last year, it did accumulate into Funiac Springs. Look at those big, white, fluffy snow flurries coming down here. Natives and travelers were surprised to see the snow, and they had some mixed reactions to it. We caught up with a couple people who were on the road, and here's what they told us.
Kind of surprised more than anything, and not very excited about it. I mean, we live in the South, so it's not something we look forward to.
I'd seen the forecast, but in Florida, with snow, you don't really expect it till you see it.
Right, we don't expect it in our part of the country, right? We expect much milder conditions. We don't expect to see snow. We expect lots of rain and things like that, but not a lot in the way of snow. But you really can get a good look here. Again, this is into Funiac Springs. Many truckers who didn't make it to a rest stop or a gas station pulled off onto the shoulder of Interstate 10. Signs along the highway warned drivers of possible ice conditions as well. And that's a look at some of those big truck drivers or trucks that were pulling over because of the wintry conditions on the roadways. In Florida, the Panhandle, not the only part of the Gulf Coast to see snow. We had some video sent in by you, and this is a video shot by Steve Alexander right here at the Fox 10 studios. And you really kind of have to look into the lights, but you can see that there are some flurries there. Not much in the way of sticking in this area, like right here at the Fox 10 studios, nothing stuck to the ground, but those flurries did happen. And in Tillman's Corner, take a look at this. Angel Thomas sending us in some snow video here, and you can see the flurries there behind, kind of in front of the wall, in front of the light there. You can see where those flurries are coming down, and they're big, thick, fluffy flurries. A lot of times when they fall, if they land on something, the ground is too warm, right, for it to stick in some of these places, but if it lands on a roof or something, or maybe a bush, it may linger for a little while. But we're not talking in terms of accumulation with the snow that we saw over the weekend, but we did see some flurries. And this is a look in Bay Minette, courtesy of Russell Benefield Jr. Thank you for sending this in. And again, when you light up the yard there, you can see those flurries kind of moving their way through, and they were falling. Temperatures very chilly over the weekend, and chilly again outside this morning. So one of the things we're talking about now, while the snow may be gone, the chilly conditions, the freezing conditions are continuing. So this is what we're looking at for tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we're looking at another freeze across the Gulf Coast. Now, conditions outside are dry, so we're not expecting to see anything related to snowfall again. But hang on a second too, y'all. Hang with me here until the end, because we're going to talk a little bit about what the forecast is calling potentially for this weekend. But point right now is that this is what we're looking at for tomorrow morning. Temperatures down below freezing conditions. And when that happens, a lot of times that means we do have to figure out if there are folks who are in need, places they can go. And in Mobile County, there are a number of cold weather shelters that are opening and open because of this cold weather. So taking a look at your screen, if there is someplace, if you need someplace warm to go in Mobile County, take a look at this. These are some of your options. locations: the Waterfront Rescue Mission on North Washington Avenue, McKimmy Place, which is open to women only. For men only, there's the Salvation Army on Dauphin Street, and the Dearborn YMCA on North Warren Street is open to families and single women. We're told operations at all of these shelters are going to continue through Wednesday. Anyone in Mobile County needing assistance can call 211 or go to the Waterfront Rescue Mission for more information. The Waterfront Rescue Mission kind of serves also as a coordinating agency. So if you go there, if you need help, they'll kind of help figure out where there's space, where you fit the best. And make sure that you're able to get there. But you can also call 211 if you need a warm place to go. And again, y'all, temperatures tonight are going to be freezing again. In Santa Rosa County, we are looking at what we see here at the Ferris Hill Baptist Church, 6848 Chaffin Street. You must arrive between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. It's going to stay open until tomorrow, but the shelter does close at 7 in the morning. So if you're going to go here in Santa Rosa County in Milton, this is an opportunity for you to go someplace to get warm, but you have to go at a certain time and understand that it will close at a certain time as well. Also, we've been keeping an eye because over the past couple of freezing conditions in Baldwin County, we did have St. Paul's Episcopal Church on North Pine Street in Foley opening as a warming shelter. We're going to keep an eye on that. We haven't heard that it's opening so far at this point, but they did say that if we are looking at freezing conditions, they will be opening back up again. If that does happen, cots are provided. Make sure you bring your own bedding, medication, and any personal comfort items that you may need. All right, so when we talk about freezing conditions, and again, just to show you what we're looking at as we head into tonight, a lot of things to keep in mind. First things first, as we talked about, keeping people safe and warm, right? So that's why we're talking about what's going on with those shelters. They are warming shelters for people who don't have any place warm to be. And definitely you have to get out of the cold because if you're in the cold, it's a very actually dangerous situation. And there are a couple of different reasons why you may be in the cold. Again, if you don't have any place warm to go, but you also may be working in the cold. So if you're out there working overnights or working early mornings with these freezing conditions, that does potentially expose you to extreme cold or cold environments where you get cold stress and a risk for cold-related illness. And we're talking about things like hypothermia, frostbite, trench foot, and chilblains. But just to let you know, this has to do with people like outdoor workers, workers in poorly insulated or unheated areas, workers in areas without shelter. So there are some things that employers can do. Keeping an eye on the forecast, but if you're a worker and you need to be outside, make sure you wear the appropriate clothing, protect your eyes, face, hands, and feet, move into warm locations if you can during breaks, maybe bring some extra socks and gloves and hats and jackets and clothes and blankets, bring extra things, right? Make sure you have a first aid kit. Don't touch those cold metal surfaces with your bare hands, and monitor your physical condition and keep an eye on your coworkers as well. And of course, when we talk about the 4 Ps, we're talking people, pipes, plants, and pets, right? So the people aspect, obviously very important. So we just talked about people maybe being in the cold because of their jobs, but we also have some people who are vulnerable just because of their situations, right? So this was put out by Rocky Mountain Human Services, and it's a really good breakdown, I think, of who may require some extra support when it gets cold like this. So individuals experiencing homelessness. We talked about this just a second ago, and just a reminder that we do have those shelters that will be opening in Mobile County, in Santa Rosa County, and various other places as well. If you are homeless or experiencing homelessness, cold weather significantly increases those risks, like we said, of hypothermia, frostbite, and other life-threatening conditions. Aging adults are also those who may require extra support this winter season. Maybe some increased challenges because the colder temperatures can make it harder for them to get around. It can worsen chronic health conditions, and also it really can intensify feelings of social isolation. They can't go out, they can't get places. So this would be a great opportunity to check maybe on your family members or your neighbors who may be aging adults and just make sure they're okay. Maybe they just need a visit. They don't need anything, to help them with the cold weather per se, except a visit. That's a great way to think about this too, is getting out there and making sure they're okay with that. Low income families. So a lot of times we look at the price at which it costs to keep a home warm. So if there's a low income family that isn't financially able, this could be someone to check on. Also, if they're in like insulated homes that aren't really that well insulated, those kinds of things could put them at greater risk of health complications and financial strain. But again, heating a home in freezing conditions can be expensive. If there's chronic illness for someone like cardiovascular and respiratory conditions, cold weather can make that worse. Check on them. If you know folks with special needs and they can't get to transportation or safely perform winter-related tasks, you could help them out. Refugees, other folks that maybe there's a language barrier, they're not familiar with cold weather, it's a great idea to work with them as well. Just check on them and make sure that they are okay. So we've got the 4 Ps and we're talking about the people, and we just talked about a couple of instances where there may be people who need our help, whether they're working out in the cold or whether that's just the situation that they are in. But we also want to talk about, as we continue along with the 4 Ps, we also want to talk about pipes. Pipes are one of our 4 Ps. And while the snow is gone, the cold is not. We're talking about freezing conditions again tonight. So it's the time of year where we go over how to protect our pipes, right? Experts say just 5 to 6 hours of cold weather can cause pipes to freeze and burst. Last year at my house, we had a pipe burst. It wasn't great. We had wonderful people come out and fix it for us. They got out there super fast, but it still wasn't great, right? We put everything on there, but the wind blew it off. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Repairs can cost $300 or more, depending on the damage. Experts say business does usually pick up after the pipes begin to thaw, because there's not much that they can do before then, and you don't know that your pipes have burst until it thaws and water starts pouring out, right? So preparation is key. So looking ahead to tonight and potentially later on this weekend as well, good idea to be prepared. And here's what they suggest.
If you have a backflow preventer out in the front yard, if it's not covered, at least go out and throw an old blanket over it, keep it covered from the weather. Any hose bibs outside on the house, if you don't have covers for them, or if you don't have rags to wrap around them, leave them dripping. You know, just a steady drip to keep the water moving through them.
Yes, absolutely. You definitely want to take these preventative measures so you don't have a situation where a pipe may burst or have even bigger problems. Experts say that if you live in a mobile home, keep the water dripping inside the home as well to help prevent frozen pipes. All right, so a couple of other, things to be remembering to prevent those frozen pipes. Thermostat should be about 55 degrees during cold weather, 55 at least, right? Drip the cold weather in the farthest faucet from your main valve. Moving water keeps pipes from freezing. You can shut off the valves. There are emergencies. Insulate pipes in unheated areas, which is what he was just showing us. I'll show you that video again so you can see what that looks like here. You can insulate the pipes. There he is dripping the pipes. You can open your cupboards and vanities so the warm air can get in there under the cupboard. Close inside valves that control water supply, different things like that, right? We've talked about this before, but just making sure that we take these precautions so we don't end up with an expensive, inconvenient situation that we would have to deal with. Okay, so 4 Ps continue, and one of the other 4 Ps, of course, is our pets. And when the weather gets cold outside, it puts our pets at risk. So the ASPCA putting out some information to help us kind of remember how to take care of our animals. So when it's cold outside, we've got to get our pets inside. Remember, if it's too cold for you, it's probably too cold for your pet, so bring them inside. If you leave them outside, they can freeze, become disoriented, lost, all of those kinds of things. Make sure that you towel dry your pet when they come inside, because if they're wet and they're cold, you want to towel dry them, of course, to make sure that they, stay warm. After you walk your dog, make sure to wash and dry your pet's feet. Stomach to remove any ice, salt, and chemicals. We don't really have that issue here with the salt and chemicals, but if it's really cold outside, go ahead and keep them warmed up, right? Also, watch what you leave out, because you could have some of those like antifreeze or different things that you're using, and your pets could get into them. Bathe your pets as little as possible during cold spells. Can remove essential oils and increase the chance of developing dry, flaky skin. Also, taking a look here just to see, if you want to know what to look out for if your dog is kind of having issues with the cold weather. So I brought up this graphic. It's from thelightofdog.com. Cold weather tips for your dog. Dogs less tolerant of cold weather if they have shorter hair. So puppies, also senior dogs and dogs with diseases like diabetes and short-haired dogs are going to have a harder time in the cold. If your dog has long hair, they can handle or they're more tolerant of the cold. But a way to tell if the cold is getting to them, if they're shivering, if their tail is tucked between their legs, if they're whining or anxious, reluctant to move, if they're lifting paws, if there's snow and ice, which of course we don't have any snow and ice right now, but we are talking about freezing conditions. So just some things to be thinking about as well. How you can help your dog is, sunny and dry, but cold can be fine for a lot of dogs. As long as they have a chance to get inside and warm up and they stay active to stay warm. Walking on ice could be a problem because our dogs could fall and slip. Remember to make sure that you dry everybody off when you come home, because that cold out there could be a problem. And how cold is too cold for a dog? It has to do also, they break it down, as we said, with what kind of fur they have, how old they are, and how big they are. But this is a general look at what we should be thinking about. 40 degrees and above shouldn't be a problem for most dogs. But again, it depends on their size, age, and coat, like whether they're short hair or long hair. Before 40 or below 40 degrees, we start to see some issues, right? Some cold-averse dogs may become uncomfortable. Once we get to freezing, though, owners of smaller breed dogs, dogs with short or thin coats, and very like puppies or senior dogs or dogs with health conditions, you got to pay close attention. Don't leave them outside for long. Go outside, go potty, come back inside where it's warm. When it's below 20 degrees, all owners, you got to bring your dogs inside. They could develop hypothermia and frostbite. Never leave them outside. Keep those potty breaks nice and short. All right, when we are looking at the taking a look at the size, this kind of breaks it down for us as well. Small dog, medium dog, large dog. Moderate risk is orange, low risk is yellow. You can see the smaller dogs are more at risk in the colder weather. The larger dogs seem to tolerate it a little bit better, but still we want to make sure that we take care of all of our pups and our cats and all of our animals that go in and out. All right, fourth P, we've done pipes, we've done people, we've done pets, and now we're doing plants. All right, when we have these freezing conditions outside, it's always a good idea to take care of our plants as well, because a freeze could actually kill them, right? So garden plants to protect, vegetables, annuals, tropical plants that are grown outside. You can protect them during freezes outside happening. You got to bring plants inside too. If you can bring plants inside, that's the easiest way to protect them from the freeze damage. Potted plants are easier to bring inside. You can put them in the garage to protect them overnight, a porch, or inside the house. If you can't bring them inside, they can be protected with coverings. The coverings you could use would be sheets and blankets, towels, tarps, frost fabric, or raw cover material. The coverings will help trap the radiant heat from the ground to keep keep them from freezing. But once temperatures drop below 28 degrees, covering is typically no longer effective because it's just so cold outside, especially if you get down to prolonged freezing, which would be 5 hours or more. You can do some different things with like some hoops and some cold frames and all these different things as well, all to keep track of what's going on with your pets. All right, looking ahead to this weekend, I've kind of been teasing this a little bit. I'm going to bring up our Fox 10 weather page for you here and scroll down. Nick put out a good forecast, of course, like they always do. All of our meteorologists do this as we work our way through the day and through the morning. But what I want to do here is go to the weekend. Okay, so Nick's been talking a bunch today about the fact that over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we have a chance for rain. But because of the temperatures, it actually could be something other than rain. They're talking about sleet or freezing rain being the highest likelihood. So we could have a wintry mix as we work our way into the weekend. So definitely something that we need to be thinking about. Freezing rain is actually hard to deal with, right? Because freezing rain, that can cause a problem on the roadways. But notice Sunday, 32 degrees with showers. Saturday, 35 degrees with rain. And both of those potentially, according to our folks here at Fox 10, potentially could be something more than rain out there. So we've been talking to the folks, you know, the past couple of days or so about what to do in the event we do have this. And, you know, we know that local transportation departments, they gear up, they make sure that the roads are safe, they get, you know, the things that they use for de-icing, and they make sure they have all of the equipment stocked up. But they want to remind you that if we do end up with any of these kinds of conditions over the weekend, that we need to prepare for them, and the best idea is to stay out of it.
Some of the best advice is if you don't have to be out during the weather, don't. But if you do, drive for the conditions that you're in. Watch your speed. Sometimes you need to go slower than the speed limit. Just drive for the condition that you're in. Be more mindful of bridges, because they're always going to be the ones that if there is ice, they do usually ice over first. So be mindful of those areas. And also don't use cruise control. Be very mindful. And if you do have to brake, be very careful about that.
All right, so that's looking ahead to this weekend. In the meantime, what we're looking at for tomorrow will be freezing conditions again. So if you need a place to stay, Mobile County has several options available for you. We also have options in Santa Rosa County, and we're continuing to check to see if there are options that will be opening in other places across the Gulf Coast, because it is expected to be very chilly outside as we work our way through this evening and into tomorrow. So we're going to keep our eye on what's going on with the weather forecast, of course, but making sure we take care of those 4 Ps as we freeze again tonight. People, pets, plants, and pipes, and make sure that everything's taken care of so we all stay safe. And we're going to keep our eyes on what's happening this weekend as well to make sure you are in the know. And if y'all have any questions, if you need to find shelter, you know, you can call depending on where you are. You can call and check in with the ones we listed, or you can give us a call here at Fox 10. We are happy to direct you wherever it is you may need to go. But everybody stay warm and stay safe. We've got really cold air in the area right now, and we are also looking ahead to this weekend.